Okay, it's Wednesday, September 21st. This is a pre-open SPY video. We have a little less than an hour to go before trading. This is the daily chart, and I'll show you in a second how the pre-market action at the moment is between these two blue lines. You can see here quickly we're kind of moving to the upside at the moment of those two lines. It's interesting that those two lines represent the high of yesterday, which if price moves above that would be a 2 up bar with a target up to this blue line, and the bottom half of the range is at the midpoint of yesterday, which would show some kind of failure on any kind of an up move to head lower, and I'll get into that in a second. One thing I wanted to do quickly before I just kind of discuss that is just zoom out these charts a little bit. This is the daily chart, and if I really zoom it out, we'll do that. The weekly chart here, I'll zoom that out for a while, and then of course the monthly chart. And bottom line is, let's keep in mind that even whatever happens today is what will happen. But overall, there's still a big downtrend in play, and there's nothing even close to turning things up at the moment. In terms of the way I look at it. In other words, the monthly chart, when I see these big months heading down, once you get more than 1 month pullback, like these were 1 month pullbacks on the uptrend, once you broke that, the trend was down. And until we get a green bar that reverses up and then follows through a little bit, kind of like down in here, green bar follows through. I'm not, big picture, the trend's still down. And if anything, it looks like, we're trying to make another little swing to the downside, until something changes. So sometimes, when the trend's down on the monthly chart, you want to look for some kind of weekly, indication that maybe things are turning. And I don't see anything on this chart at all that the weekly chart's turning. A lot of times when I'm looking for that, I see it either in a key support area, it comes down and we just probe a support. When I call it support, it's not like I expect things to, hold at these lows. It breaks through and then you get a reversal, or you're breaking a trend line to the upside, or just anything. The only thing we have possibly going here is a weekly, 3 bar down, a 2 down, and then a 2 up into next week. That might be the beginning of it, but even that, you'd still have, maybe a rally up to the top of this tree, somewhere up here before it failed and continued lower. So I don't see anything on this chart that's heading, higher or starting to reverse. And then on the daily chart, same thing. Even if, the weekly chart's going to turn, the daily's going to have to turn first. And I don't see anything here that's doing that. Again, normally I would look for it at key support, or some kind of a key trend line to the upside. If you want to call that the beginning of some kind of 45-degree upside, maybe that could be the turn, on any 2 up daily bar that might start back up towards this, if anything, until we break this bigger trend line. So we might have a rally up into here if you can sense that this is a trend line on the upside. But again, I don't even see the weekly 2 up green bar with follow through at the moment. It might develop today, but so big picture, there's a lot of bottom line is that doesn't really affect the day-to-day price action. Could get you could see here, you can get strong, well, on the daily chart, you can get strong, even in this, I would have said the same thing over here, and you can get 4 big, strong up days in a row. So anything's possible in terms of day-to-day, but just keep the big picture in mind. We're nowhere near turning up yet. And if anything, we would have some great sell opportunity, given that, if things move up and nothing really changes on these longer-term charts, then you can get excited again for these downward moves. I mean, that's what happened here. Once we went down, there was some great trading. Now we're kind of a little exhausted. We're in a little bit of a range here for 3 days, and we're going to have to see, ideally, I think to get to the short side, you would want to come up a little bit and fail and head lower. But we'll keep that in mind just if things change. But for today, bottom line, here's the way I'm looking at it with Fed day. So first of all, when I play an opening price action here that moves up green above this line and works towards that target, yeah, I can see doing that in the morning. So that's what I'll look for first if we open up here with some kind of green bar moving above the pre-market high. Let's see if we attack that. And then if we get through there, then the key thing is, does that fail or hold right at this area? Because we talked about how we had broadening action here. If I zoom the 15 minutes, we've had this up, down. So maybe we come up again one more time, fail and come down. So that's what you want to look for if you get to this target. Is that going to happen? If we don't come down, then, we could be heading up to these 2 targets here on the daily chart, which are the next targets. And that is actually the road to getting to the halfway point of this bar, which could be a big weekly reversal. So if we can get all the way up there somehow today, then all of a sudden, for Thursday and Friday, I might be projecting up here to new, highs, on the week. But we'll see what happens there. So that's what I'm kind of monitoring for as price kind of move, if it moves up. If it moves down, which I don't anticipate early, you want to see if it breaks below this midpoint of that bar. And what's interesting here is let's say the market comes up a little bit and it doesn't, it either reaches its target, it doesn't reach its target. We'll kind of watch what the structure is. We'll know what the intraday low is. We'll know what the midpoint of the first bar is for any failures. And if we can kind of, then you're going to have probably a lot of volatility with the announcement. It always happens. But the key will be we be breaking some, if it's going to be up a little bit in the morning, and let's say everything looks like it might be it's volatility to the downside, you want to see that it's going to be breaking below the intraday low and really attacking the midpoint of this first bar, of yesterday's bar, for it to really stick. In other words, if we're up here, I'm going to have to really see something which I feel is going to come down and give me the 2-up failure on the daily chart. And that's going to be the key sign. If we can go below this bar here, to have a 2-up failure, to project down to that low and to get the weekly chart now maybe having a 3-2 continuation at the downside. The monthly chart, which until things change, I'm still projecting down there. That's all going to happen if we can get below the midpoint of yesterday, and that's going to be a nice 2-up kind of failure kind of thing. So it's pretty actually simple in terms of what to look for. The volatility, I don't know, a lot of times once the announcement's made, you get a lot of short volatility for 15 minutes, and you don't really know what's going to happen for sure. It could just take out stops and continue up higher, or it can go up and then immediately fail. But if it fails, you're still going to have to come below the midpoint of that bar for it to really feel comfortable, or to have something that's going to attack the intraday lows that could then lead to the midpoint of that bar. So, but it's the midpoint of this bar, which happens to be the bottom of the range, which is going to be the key for lower continuation today. And if we have a lot of, it depends what the structure is going to look like to start the session here and through, up through 1 o'clock to see whether we break that down and can start attacking that area. So that's kind of what to look for. So bottom line, I'll finish it up here. You could play the first move of the day if it happens with a green bar and, nice price structure up to this target. When it hits this target, you want to see if that becomes a failure or continuation up to these targets. And for the day to reverse, in terms of the bigger picture, you want it to get below the midpoint of the prior day, which happens to align with the pre-market lows. So those are the kind of the things to watch for. We're going to have to see how intraday structure forms on the 15-minute chart with all those, key areas in mind. And the volatility, we'll see how that plays out when the announcement's made. So anyway, those are the thing to look for. Are we really going to potentially reverse this week, getting to the midpoint of that week? That's only going to happen if we get above this, get the 2-up bar that reaches its target and then holds and then heads up to those 2 areas. That's the only way that weekly chart can reverse. Other than that, I would get excited to, whether it's today or tomorrow, for some kind of failure to the downside. So let's see what happens today.